Hello, folks. Welcome to Osquery Office Hours. It is the beginning of June, late spring here in Boston. The weather is nice, and we don't have a lot of people, so I don't totally know what we'll cover today, but welcome, folks. Let's see. Announcements. I don't have any real announcements. Anyone else? Okay. Questions, issues, PRs, anything people want to raise that they didn't add to an agenda? Okay. Agenda section now. So there's a handful of things that I kicked forward from last office hours, but I think we don't have quorum, so I'm going to kick them forward again. But I found myself thinking a lot about security recently and how we sort of treat security things. And this is probably a bit of an ongoing topic, but OS query, I find myself wondering, like, what should we be classifying as a medium or high or critical security bug? Like, is something that causes a local denial of service a high issue or a medium issue? I wasn't sure if people had thoughts on that.
I guess that if it is something that effectively disables telemetry and it is controllable by a user, an unprivileged user, I don't know where to put it in the scale between low and critical, but it is definitely not a low, maybe.
But is it a medium or a high?
I would go with a medium. Does it make sense? Like, imagine if downloading a file trips, I don't know, the file table, and now every time your query pack at scale ends up inside the user folder, causes the watchdog to just fire, and you basically stop getting any kind of challenge. This is a super made up scenario, but where would you stand in this case?
I mean, my feeling is it's probably a medium. Like, it's, I'm definitely operating a little outside my own range here. This feels like something, I'm curious what, like, Mike, I think, exists a little bit closer to classification. So I wonder what Mike thinks. But like, my feeling is there's sort of, it's like a very rough rubric. I feel like there's, a local user, a local non-root user could do something that causes OS query to crash or emit telemetry, feels like a medium severity bug to me. Doesn't exactly feel like a high severity bug. I mean, it might, you also hit the, like, well, I don't know, they could probably also just stick a network proxy in front of their laptop and twiddle it that way too. So I don't know, it feels medium. Like, it's not low, it's not super high. I feel like a route that allows a local unprivileged user to escalate privileges into OS query permissions feels like a high one. Like,
yeah, I agree to both.
And then there's like, if we ever found something that was like remotely exploitable, then that would maybe become a critical bug, which feels real hard. I'm not sure we'll ever find a remotely exploitable OS query issue, but I feel like that's kind of a thing there.
Yeah, and speaking of vulnerabilities, I'm sure you've seen the BPF issue that was created recently.
I haven't looked at that one yet.
Yeah, Mike has already answered to that. I'm wondering if we should make the threat model more prominent. But to me, basically, it is a non-bug. If you're root, if you can load, I don't know, a killer driver, sure, you can mess up whatever Osquery tries to read. It is the same for BPF. In that specific PFC, you not only need to be able to load the BPF, but in order to access the memory write primitives from within the BPF VM, you actually need to have the cap sysadmin. So, I mean, to me, it's just, yeah, sure, you are hooking into Osquery and changing how it works. And that's the same as using ptrace if you want, or I don't know, loading a kernel driver. You're sysadmin, so you can do whatever you want. But I was wondering if maybe when we had less visibility in terms of AI and agents, the threat model was maybe more clear to everyone in the space. But as we start to get more people using AI analysis framework, I was wondering if it makes sense to move the threat model a bit more closer in a place that is easier to see, let's say, for an agent.
Yeah, it probably does. It's probably worth making sure it's a little bit more, prominent enough, or whatever prominent enough means. I feel like there's also, we talk about various things that a local entity could do to deny telemetry, ranging from, if they're unprivileged, there are almost certainly medium severity things that can cause Osquery to, crash a table, to they just have privileged access and they Trojaned Osquery. Right? Like, I'm sure there's any number of, I replaced your binary, I monkeyed with LD preload, I stuck it in a jail, right? There's so many things you could do. But I feel like trying to monitor that integrity is a very different ball of wax.
Yeah, I don't think it is. Like, once you have there were some ideas in, as if I was linked the issue. There were some ideas on how to proceed there, but it's a game of cat and mouse. If you start hooking each other at higher and higher levels, trying not to get caught by the program.
Like, I think Apple has some tools in that space, mostly oriented around anti-cheating measures in games. But I don't know that that's something that Osquery as a project would really want to look in versus something that like Launcher or Orbital or Orbit or whatever else would look at.
Could you change the category of Osquery to game and put anti-cheat?
Well, we could just do it. It's not like Apple restricts it. It's just the reason they developed it is for anti-cheat measures. But there's stuff around it's like a multi-part thing where the program on the device uses a framework that validates the signature and then gets an attestation from Apple covering the signature and the device authenticity. And then that can be handed to the server, which then verifies it with Apple. So it's like Apple has some attestation thing, and it's full of weird sort of privacy where you can't actually like track a device identifier across it, but you can sort of validate the signature on the program that was used to generate the messaging. I'm sure it's still vulnerable to something. If you're curious, it should be pretty easy to find Apple's documentation on that.
Yeah. No, but on Linux, I wouldn't know how. You can both hook into the Osquery binary itself with BPF, or you can hook at the system level without touching anything in Osquery. So yeah, I don't think there's any at the top of my mind like this. I don't think there's something you can do to fix it. Let's say, if we even want to call it like a defect.
Yeah, no, I agree. We've never tackled it before because you just get into that. How do you self-certify? It requires a lot of OS help effectively. But I dumped the link into chat if you want to read about Apple's framework here. You might not. That's okay too.
Really, we should. Have we looked at like ELAM for Windows if we're talking about self-protection frameworks? We want to go fight with Microsoft to get one of those exceptions. ELAM is early launch anti-malware. So it's designed for like EDR, like Sentinel-1 and whatever else, where you do a lot of work with Microsoft and get put early enough into the boot chain that it can't be compromised. It loads before most of the rest of the other drivers and other things.
It's kind of neat. Definitely seems like something I would want to look at, learn about, just for my own edification.
And I'm going to do some self-promotion here. I don't know if you have seen the tool I released some time ago, mQuery, which is forensics with SQL, similar to Osquery. And I was adding some sort of, like it works by reading memory. And I was adding proc K-core support. And you could, in theory, if you look at the memory, at the raw memory, detect things, but still, someone else could install the rootkit to try and hook the K-core facility. So
you said mQuery?
Yes. Or mQuery. I don't even know how to spell it. I have no idea. I wrote it, but I don't know how to spell it.
Okay. Maybe I'll try and look at it. Although my network seems to be flaky, so it'll have to be later on. That's, I guess, yeah. I think that's kind of all the things I had to talk about.
I mostly had a question if we had a timeline for cutting the 6.0 release, which I think is probably a question for Zap, because I know that he wanted to get some of the boot or some of the development stack bits landed. I didn't know where he was at on that.
Okay, I have a little bit of an answer for that.
Oh, great.
So right now we are fielding a fairly large number of Mythos found vulnerabilities.
Yes.
And probably what's going to happen is when we get them all patched, we'll cut a release.
Sounds great.
I don't know what the state of Zach's toolchain work is or the BPF work. And I imagine those will drive whether we decide to call it a 5 release or a 6 release. All the things I've seen out of Mythos are relatively low scale, local denial of service-ish things so far. There may be more that are different. Partly it's slow because GitHub's process here is dumb. It's very hard to like submit a PR to a private issue and have it go through CI. So everything just feels very hard. And yeah, so that's a little bit where our attention is in terms of releases right now.
Sorry, I was curious on that part because I know that yeah, it supports having a temporary private fork to have the contributor push there. The CI doesn't run, or
correct.
It has issues too. Okay.
GitHub Actions does not run on private forks. So the security process, like GitHub has this very nice, you can create a private security thing and you can create a private fork and you can have a private PR, but there's no CI on it.
Yeah.
At all. So I don't really know how you're supposed to use it if you have anything that isn't a trivial software project. I mean, I guess what I'll say is I think if we had some like if any of the things felt really sensitive, one of the other things that feels very hard to me, and I don't know what y'all's take is, right, is because we're a piece of distributed software. If we fix a thing and we're public about that fix, it's still going to be a month before that software is rolled out widely. So there's like this uncomfortable place where if we thought there was a really large set of higher critical patches, we'd almost need to create a private fork, fix them privately, test the distribution privately, hand it out to key partners privately, and then like make a public release with it.
Have we considered doing that?
Which is like a whole lot of fucking work on the GitHub platform.
Yep. Yeah, it is. To say nothing of all of the people time to coordinate with everybody, especially because there's no, I mean, we don't have telemetry, right, to understand who is using it or whatever else. So it's, then we have to start, like, hey, posting, a blog or something on GitHub and blasting it out. Like, hey, we have security fixes. If you're a big user, get in touch. Like, good luck.
Yeah. Luckily, the poll model means it's pretty hard to create a remote exploit. But yeah, I don't have an answer on that one. It just feels like a little bit of tension. Anyway, that's the state of the next Osquery release. When we're done playing whack-a-mole with security bugs. Other questions? Hey, classic QueryCon shirt, Stefano.
I was like, I still have that one. It's in the closet. That was 2019, right? New York.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. It's not like it's just it was not intended, but yeah. For today. But yeah. Sometimes it enters in the like cycles of t-shirt I put.
All right. Sounds like we don't have a whole lot more business. I'm going to drop off. I have some things to take care of. Thanks, everybody.
I think we'll probably call it in a moment. So nice to see you. Alessandro, Stefano, anything you want to add, or should we just call it a meeting?
No, nothing for me.
Great.
Yeah, no, nothing for me too. Yeah.
Nice to see you all, and have a good 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
everyone. Bye.